with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Justin Carlucci. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Live show. It is Friday. We have a 6-game main slate on DraftKings to talk about. Your guy Justin was on today's NBA DFS Playbook. He's got that out live on Fantasy Alarm right now. So if you are a Fantasy Alarm subscriber, you can check out the early day insights on where we're looking to build our lineups. Justin and I did the preview show last night. We kind of speculated maybe some players would sit with all the back-to-backs. We did get one big name earlier today. That is Damian Lillard is out for Milwaukee going up against Washington. Giannis on track to play here today. We'll see, obviously, if that holds true, but a Giannis-led Milwaukee team against Washington would make sense as why there's some ownership going his direction today. Justin, how are we feeling, man?
What's up? Yeah, of course. You know how it is, everybody. A lot of the stuff we talked about might be stale. You can definitely, last night that is, you can definitely incorporate, about half of it. But things are changing and, we have a lot to talk about. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, we appreciate all of you who are tuning in here today. If you want to hit that like, that share, that subscribe button, it's a free way to support the work we do here at Fantasy Alarm. If you are new to the show, we appreciate you tuning in. You can drop a like or comment in the comment section. We'll pop it up on the stream. We go position by position, and we build an example lineup here at the end of the show. If you're interested in what we got going on over at Fantasy Alarm, we have the 7-day free trial going on. You can go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Use promo code Let's Go. That first month after your 7-day free trial is less than $20. And again, that gets you access to everything on site, not just NBA, but all fantasy sports, all DFS sports, anything behind the paywall included in your 7-day free trial here. We got Justin in here saying hello and good luck. Kuja popping in saying let's go. David saying what's up to all of you guys here today. Let's just jump in. Top price plays overall on the day. Again, Giannis is 11.5, K 10.3. That's it for guys up over $10,000. You got Towns at 98, Irving and Barnes rounding out the 9K tier. Point guard, like I said, leads you to Cade Cunningham, $10,300. You have Kyrie Irving at 93. We'll leave Scotty Barnes for small forward since this is a healthier team now for Toronto. You got Brunson at 88, kind of rounding out that top half. Thoughts on where we want to go when it comes to point guard today?
Yeah, some of what we talked about last night remains true, and that's a big sum. But if we're talking up top, Cade against Wemby, if you missed the preview show, the Spurs without Wemby on the floor yielding an offensive rating to opponents that's almost 7 points higher this season. So what do we know about Cade? He likes to slash, get to the hoop, distribute when he gets to the hoop, or just score at will. So I think Cade is definitely in play. There are plenty of options here, and I think some more value will open up. Love Kyrie. We talked last night about the huge total, and the Mavs are actually favorites. We still need an update on PJ Washington.
Yeah.
I like Kyrie regardless. If Washington is out, Kyrie could have a chance for a mega usage game. After I dove in a little bit more today, last 10 games, this is a battle between two teams who are the worst two teams in basketball in defensive rating across the last 10 games. So, that explains the probably higher than usual projected game total here. So I think there could be some fireworks on both sides.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. The Knicks obviously have a really tough matchup here against Cleveland. We saw them in a more favorable matchup going on yesterday. Brunson had a decent game against Chicago. Poor shooting night from him, but obviously still got you almost 50 fantasy points there. Morant, a tough spot against Orlando. We looked at the San Antonio situation. We wanted to figure out kind of how everything would play out for them. They played very small in that matchup. De'Aaron Fox had 37 minutes, had himself a big day. I know you talked Detroit good defensively here, but just sort of given the usage rate, do we like Fox at 82?
Yeah, we do. And I think we like him. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but I like him on both sites. Obviously, The price is much better on DK. This total, we didn't have it last night, is higher than I expected. We're looking at about 236-ish. And that's good news for everyone in this game. We'll get to the rest of the Spurs a little bit later. But Fox, DK did not move the needle for him enough. I think he's more appropriately priced on FanDuel. But this is too cheap for his role and situation. I think he's a play in all formats, should give you the high floor. If you're playing cash games, you probably need to stop here first for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah. Where else are we looking to go when it comes to the mid-range of point guard today?
I was just doing a lot of thinking about the Knicks. I didn't write a lot about the Knicks in the playbook, and I'll be updating core plays after lock here. So definitely come hang out in our Discord as the chaos kind of rolls out every night between 6 and that's where you're going to find the most important updates, and we're hashing it out in the Discord there. But we already have the Josh Hart news. OG is questionable. Cleveland has been much better defensively lately, second in the league in defensive rating across their last 10 games. This is still a mega game total. The Knicks are implied about 116, so no slouch here at all. This isn't projected to be a grind of 100 to 98 kind of old school bloodbath. These Knicks are going to keep getting 36 to, we saw 40 plus out of the starters yesterday. Campaign was kind of an afterthought, even in overtime. Like, is the field not reacting enough to the minutes that the Knicks are getting, and just kind of, are we seeing this Cleveland and the good defense attached to it and just kind of shying away from everyone not named Towns?
I mean, I think it's got a little bit to do with like back-to-back for New York, and they're on the road against Cleveland. But to your point, it's a 242.5 game total. It's the highest on the board, which I don't think we often expect from these Cleveland games because, again, they generally do play good defense here. But, Brunson, again, Towns obviously laughable. You and I were recording last night kind of tilting a little bit because Towns had like a 1 for 12 like first half, like what's going on. He goes for like 70 fantasy points anyway. So just crazy. Absolutely.
I didn't write about the Knicks in the playbook much, but I want to note it here, and then in the Discord we can hash it out more. If OG's out, I don't think we're going to see a ton of ownership move towards these other guys. And Brunson wasn't fantastic again, but if you're getting 40 minutes out of some talented basketball players, there's going to be wild range of outcomes. There's going to be some luck, and you're going to get a ceiling game from at least one of these guys, even against Cleveland.
Yep. The other point guard positions again for San Antonio last night, again, we weren't sure kind of what that rotation was going to look like. They went very small. It drew Phoenix into a small lineup matchup, and I wonder if that's what we're going to see. Teams now have to approach San Antonio kind of moving forward if they're going to go with that smaller lineup. But we commented on the previous show how they bumped Castle's price up and above Chris Paul. Chris Paul played 32 minutes, had a double-double in that game. Castle played 26, also had a double-double in that game. Knowing how that rotation played out, do you have a preference between the two other guards here for the Spurs?
I'd be lying if I loved either one of them. I wish they'd give Castle more run.
Yeah.
That's my problem. He was awesome in the 25 minutes he got. I mean, well over a fantasy point per minute, 25% usage rate. Didn't even shoot well. If you can get me 30 minutes out of this guy, he could break the slate. And we both know that. But I just, man, it's kind of time to start passing the torch. You're already losing Wemby the rest of the season. Chris Paul is still a good leader, but he's a shell of what he used to be. Give Castle some run. I think he's in play for large field tournaments. But man, I just think that ceiling is capped. And it's a decent ceiling for the price tag, but I think because of his lack of minutes, he's kind of priced appropriately.
Yeah. Anybody else in this range for you?
Let's see here. I mean, we just going down a little bit lower. Emmanuel Quickly is still pretty cheap. I hate the game environment. He's the guy that nobody's really going to click on.
Yeah, they play Barnes, they play Barrett. They don't really play Quickly, right? So
right, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of minutes, so I'm just saying it's possible. I'm not going to go there, but Quickly, and we talked to Jose Alvarado on the preview show yesterday. A little
still
bit
big minutes for him. Obviously, again, no DeJounte Murray. They're just letting him be the starting point guard. McCully, Murphy, and Zion are all active for this game, but we know Alvarado's someone that can still kind of fill up the stat sheet when given an opportunity to.
Yep. Not a priority, but definitely, in the large field tournament pool.
Yep, for sure. Anything else for value? Did you get any more insight on what Washington may be doing today?
No, not really. I think, Orlando is kind of interesting. I just think it's worth noting that Cole Anthony was sick yesterday, right? Left and came back. So you're kind of always dancing with fire a little bit when you're dealing with somebody with an illness. And we know basketball players in this era don't like to play when they're not feeling well. So, but if he continues to start, he's playing pretty big minutes. So I think he's kind of interesting. Back-to-back again for Orlando, but a nice pace-up spot against Memphis. So I think he's a little bit interesting.
The last time we saw Damian Lillard sit, they started Ryan Rollins, but it was Kevin Porter Jr. that got sort of the late run in that game against Minnesota. Are you playing the starter or are you playing Kevin Porter Jr. regardless?
Well, in DraftKings, I am playing Kevin Porter Jr. On FanDuel, he's up to 5,100, and that's no bueno for me. But yeah, I mean, listen, Rollins is super cheap. It depends what kind of value opens up. In a perfect world, and there could be some slates where it's a perfect storm, there can be combinations of Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter, both optimal in certain kinds of tournaments. It is the Wizards we're getting here, so there could be some sloppy basketball. Kevin Porter on DraftKings is the more appealing option because he's a usage guy here. Although Rollins did shoot a bunch in his last game.
Rollins just didn't score well against Minnesota, but he got 26 minutes.
Yep.
It was Kevin Porter Jr. that closed that game, and he kind of racked up some late fantasy points there. I'm kind of curious. I think that if Rollins starts again, I might just go Rollins again here because people are going to have sort of that same thought process of what happened last time. But if Ryan Rollins goes out there against Washington and doesn't go 2 for 12, but shoots a little bit better, in 26 minutes, if they're just going to split the time, there's still some upside there for him.
I have no problem with Rollins at all. If we're splitting hairs, I'll side with KPJ, but to each their own. Just quickly looking back at point guard, I also think Darius Garland's in play for large field tournaments. I mean, if a game's competitive and there's a high total, he's always in play, right? He's just not a person you're going to prioritize. But big game, 7,400 is a nice price for him. So I just wanted to mention him. And we're still waiting on a Tyler Hero decision, right?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I think he was probable, but obviously, again, we don't know officially yet on his thing there. And if they do start McBride again, now I think they go big lineup here. If OG plays, I still think they may go a big lineup because Cleveland plays a big lineup. But if OG is out again, they just go Precious and McBride with no Josh Hart. It's gonna be hard not to want to play McBride at $4,300.
Yeah, and if OG's out, I mean, if you're playing 100 lineups, 50 lineups, I would come up with some build rules in the optimizer that you use and just make sure you get some of these Knicks because minutes are one of the biggest factors in DFS, obviously, and clearly we know who's going to be playing for the Knicks in a vacuum.
Agreed. Shooting guard, Murphy, $8,400. Donovan Mitchell on the other side at 83. McCollum's 8K. Desmond Bain, $7,500, and RJ Barrett at 72.
Yeah, we talked about New Orleans. The big three is intact, but you're getting big minutes from Murphy. You're getting two terrible defensive teams and a really close Vegas total. So we're both Murphy guys. I think he's fine. So towards the top of the list there, Murphy's my preference. We talked about De'Aaron Fox. Fox is my preference over Murphy. But really, you can kind of make a case for plenty of these guys. Not sure I love Barrett. We said he looked good before the break, but everyone's healthy. Probably a crappy game environment against Miami. So for me, it's De'Aaron Fox. Maybe use him at shooting guard tonight because there seems to be like a handful of pretty good point guard options, including either Kevin Porter or Ryan Rollins if you go that route.
Sure. Where else are we looking to go as we work our way down the list here?
Yeah, Vassell is one of the few other Spurs that I'm considering. Wasn't fantastic yesterday, but I think he has significantly moved up on the pecking order, sans Wemby. Minutes are going to be good. He was kind of on the verge of a breakout season. And then, boom, here comes De'Aaron Fox into town. So he's another culprit of the lack of Castle minutes, but in Vassell's own right, he hasn't been bad, and he's still growing. So I think he's fine as well. Let's see. For FanDuel, I know we're mostly covering DraftKings, but I got to mention Pajemski. I know it's a little further down. He's 57 on FanDuel. I mean, it's hard to trust anyone in the Steve Kerr rotation, but it looks like he's solidified himself. He's trending in the right direction post-trade, and he's a guy who can just fill it up, and that's another close game with a really high total. So I think Pajemski is one of the better plays at shooting guard.
Yeah, I like him. He's been really good lately, even with a healthier team there. Some questions we got. Travis saying no Porter on FanDuel then. What was the KPJ price?
He's 51. It's just a lot. I think it's fine. I think you're looking at 5 times value kind of thing, but you're gonna have to get really hot for a big ceiling game at 51.
And Cam, I mean, listen, Rollins has been the starter whenever Lillard's been out, and he played 26 minutes in that game. So I think it probably is a 50-50 split. It's also worth noting that in that Minnesota game, there was no Lillard. There was also no Giannis. So Giannis is playing tonight against Washington. He could just take all the usage and nobody gets anything. It just
I also don't love shooting guard on FanDuel. So I will probably end up with more Kevin Porter than I originally thought I would. But I want to temper my expectations. Then again, their pricing is tighter and more aggressive, so it depends what kind of value we're looking like. But if you're going to look at 30-ish minutes from Kevin Porter, it is the Wizards, so I am fine with it. It's just it's a little bit tough of a position on FanDuel, so I'm not avoiding Kevin Porter. Just temper your expectations because he's not 3,600 anymore or whatever he was 10 days ago.
Below Vassell, you have Beasley, Clay at 56. We've played a lot of Max Christie lately. He's been awesome at $5,400. We have Rozier, which again, would probably be a better play if there was no Hero, but that team being a bit healthier kind of takes me off of him there. Thoughts, I guess, on that crew? Does like a returning PJ Washington, would that impact your feelings on a Christie or Thompson at all in this matchup?
Doesn't affect Christie a lot. There's just that handful of wings that they have, but it seems like Christie is the guy. He came over in the trade for a reason. I think his minutes are safe for what they have.
Yeah.
I think Christie is a really good, nice high floor play tonight. PJ doesn't really bother me in that situation. And we mentioned Cole Anthony again, like playing huge minutes, pace up spot against Memphis. Like again, he was sick. Let's see here. Jordan Poole also shooting guard eligible on FanDuel. I think he is on both sides, right? So did you mention Poole at point guard? I can't remember.
I passed him through, but I think, I asked you what you thought, if you heard anything more on the Wizards status. Now, Poole's not going to be impacted, but if they're going to have Smart, they're going to have Middleton available to them today. I just wonder what's going to happen with that rotation.
Yeah, and hopefully we start to get some answers as the night progresses.
Agreed. Any other value at shooting guard for you?
Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, the more we're cycling through, the more Kevin Porter becomes appealing on FanDuel at that 5K price because, there is not a ton I like. Travis also said Castle been legit. Yeah, Castle's one of my favorite players in the league right now. I just wish they gave him 30-plus minutes. I have no problem with Castle. And he looked good over the weekend, too. Good to see him get some spotlight in the Rising Stars. Some people might be into Jordan Clarkson. It's not really for me tonight. Gary Trent, I think we talked a little bit about in the Discord earlier today. Yeah. The absence of Taurean Prince should solidify Gary Trent minutes. Of course, he has kind of a scary floor, but it's a good matchup against the Wizards, and we know he can get hot. So I like Gary Trent for tournaments too.
Yeah, Gary Trent's a good call, especially again, you mentioned no Prince, obviously, and then no Lillard, shortening up that rotation. Let's see here. We talked, unless there's some more injuries, probably no one else really notable here. Obviously FanDuel has some other options. You have Houston over there, Jabari Smith returning today. I'm very interested to see how that impacts the rotation there for Houston and whatnot. So something to watch for if you're playing on FanDuel. Small forward, we have Scotty Barnes, 92. I know you mentioned you didn't really care much for this game. Franz Wagner at 87. Zion now with the small forward eligibility, as we discussed on the preview show. Murphy, we've talked about. Barrett, we've talked about here. And then you've got Kuzma at $6,900. How much more interest do you have in Kuzma, knowing no Prince, no Portis, no Lillard?
A lot more than I did. And that's not saying I'm going all in on Kyle Kuzma. He's been downright terrible lately. I'm not going to lie. He's had a baby sample size of minutes without Bobby Portis and Damian Lillard as a member of the Bucks. And he did have a significant usage bump without them on the floor. So I'm hoping that's enough for him to do damage in 35 minutes in a sweet revenge game, against a bad defense. Fair price at 69 on DK. Mm-hmm. So I think, this is it. If it doesn't happen now, I don't know what to say. Then you have to warrant his really bad form even more.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the one game where there was no Lillard, no Giannis, he went for 42 fantasy points. He had a double-double. There's obviously Giannis involved, but there is no Lillard. Now there's no Prince to kind of cut into any minutes. No Portis, who's a high usage rate guy, went on the floor. So maybe there's a chance there. We did get official word that Middleton and Smart will debut tonight for the Washington Wizards. So I'm very curious to see, again, I guess, the minutes that those guys end up playing. So there's Kuzma 69. How much interest do you have in spending Barnes, Wagner, Williamson?
Again, Barnes is my least favorite. Wagner back-to-back, but he's been great. Him and Palo have been awesome. Big pace-up spot against Memphis, although the Grizzlies are good defensively. We know where the usage is on this team. There's no hiding it. There's no speculation. It's Wagner and Palo. And Wagner still ended up with 40-ish fantasy points yesterday, despite picking up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes. So that might have affected, his level of aggression for some part of the game. So I'm totally, he just doesn't kill you at that price. No matter how badly the cards are dealt early in the game. Last night, for example, he finds a way to get it done. He's so bad from a fantasy perspective in closing minutes, though. Like, he came back into the game with like 5 minutes left or something like that. I think he had 38 fantasy points and he just didn't do anything. But, can't look at it that way. I think Wagner is one of the better higher end plays if you're looking to spend up at small forward.
Sure. And if Dallas doesn't get PJ Washington back, Zion should have a field day against that front court. Like, even though his minutes are seemingly capped at like 28 to 29 minutes, we've seen him go for 40 actual in that run there. Mid-tier for us here. Well, you don't like, obviously, the Miami-Toronto game. Wiggins on the other side. Toronto got the Canadian connection there. Like, if you're in narratives, you got that at $6,500. If there is no PJ Washington, Najee Marshall should be playing a decent amount of minutes. Then some of these other guys we've kind of already discussed. Is there any one or two small forwards we haven't yet highlighted that you're interested in here?
Yeah, if Hero doesn't play, I'll be interested in Wiggins. We haven't seen the game yet in the new uniform, but like you said, a little bit of narrative there. He's seeing great minutes. There's just a lot of heads in that rotation, right? So I think if Hero's out, Wiggins becomes much more interesting. Let's see.
Yeah, Aso Thompson here, a guy you and I have highlighted a lot. The minutes we wish were better. He did get 28 against Chicago, 27, a couple of games here against Philly and Cleveland. If we could get 27, 28 minutes consistently a night, there's some really high output out of Thompson here at 5,300.
Doesn't this feel like the Castle discussion, except Thompson is priced more accordingly on DK, that like he's not getting the minutes. So I'd rather play him on DraftKings, where the price is still very much in reason. 7 times value. Yeah, FanDuel is at 66, I think.
Oof, yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
I was gonna say, because you do get the extra points for the defensive stats there. But yeah, way better price. We did mention Rozier without Hero, but again, Hero's probable, everybody. So it seems likely that Hero's going to suit up. He just is not officially in that lineup yet. So if something was to happen, then maybe. But even then, again, they've added other pieces there. Harrison Barnes is someone that we kind of joked about last night. He played 27 minutes. He just missed his shots. They played Keldon Johnson 25 minutes off the bench. Sohan played 28, but did not start. They played Bismack Biyombo. Keldon down here at $4,400. We said if he came out of the game playing 25 minutes, we'd probably have some interest at $4,400. It's exactly what he did. Did you go back to the well at 4,400?
I don't hate it. I just, I think there are better places to get value, especially on DK at guard with the Milwaukee News, and there's some other places to go. They just have so many wings that are going to play mid-20s minutes that are they kind of do the same thing, kind of similar positions. And don't get me wrong, one of them could pop tonight. It's hard for me to decipher which one that it's going to be. You guys were the Dante Exum whispers before the break. What are you feeling tonight with him? Anything there? If PJ sits, any interest?
I mean, listen, if their lineup is going to look like what it did, but there was no Kyrie in that game, right? So I think if Kyrie, obviously Kyrie's in, so I have a little bit of trouble, I think, getting to Exum at the 20 minutes because they'll just play Dinwiddie, they'll play Christie, they'll play Clay, Najee Marshall, and then it was who was it? Kessler Edwards obviously got huge minutes there. So that's if there's no PJ Washington. Washington currently is just questionable right now still. Listed as questionable. I don't know. Did he go through a shoot around? Did we get? Took part in Thursday practice. So seems like that's a good sign for things to come. Yeah. We have Giannis. We have our daily troll in here, MD, saying that there's no way Giannis pays off this price tag. Asked when was the last time he had a ceiling? Not too long ago. He had 72 fantasy points.
And then just 3 streaks of 60s, which might be enough on a given slate,
right? Like you take Lillard out of the equation here. It's certainly viable on a slate where there is only 2 guys over $10,000 that he could have a 70+ fantasy point game. Again, the key thing here is no Damian Lillard on the floor, right? You take Damian Lillard off the floor this year for the Bucks, and you look at the output that we've gotten out of Giannis here this season, and it's been pretty impressive on the year. Usage rate without Damian Lillard on the floor for Giannis here, 37%. Take Bobby Portis off the floor, and that usage rate looks at 39.9% usage rate with no Lillard, no Portis on the floor this year. That comes out to a 1.8 fantasy point per minute.
I mean, if he gets 30 minutes, it might be a wrap. He might be the guy you
30
need.
minutes, yeah. 30 minutes is 60 fantasy points pretty much right there. And if this game, because there is no Lillard and Washington kind of reloading a little bit here, maybe there's a chance, for that. And I get it. Listen, Kyle Kuzma's back, right? Like Kuzma's going to take some of that usage. They haven't, played a ton together, obviously, this season with Giannis. 5 minutes they've played combined. In that 5 minutes, though, Giannis still had 1.8 fantasy points per minute. At a 53% usage rate, so don't discount it.
Oh God, it's like a video game number.
Yeah, right. So, can he do it? Of course, it's a small slate. If he goes for 70 fantasy points plus tonight, and nobody else is going for that, then you're going to give yourself a little bit of leverage there. But what are your thoughts as we work our way down? You mentioned Zion early at small forward. Do you like any one of the 8K plays more than the other?
I do like Zion, and just touching on Giannis again.
Sure.
Like, if there's one thing we have learned in this NBA DFS space over the years, never say never in fantasy NBA, because it is so volatile. And what if his minutes limit gets discreetly lifted, or like we said, even if he gets 30, he's coming in at sub 10% ownership. You don't have to do a lot to just kind of cover yourself there, and at least give yourself a shot with a couple of Giannis teams. So I get it. One lineup, it's tough, but
and the minutes restriction is a key comment there too, right? He was limited yesterday, played 24 minutes. They're on the second leg of a back-to-back. If we get word he's still limited at 7 o'clock, so we'll have sort of that information, then of course you don't play an 11-5 Giannis at 24 minutes.
Good call.
We're just saying that if there's no minutes restriction tonight, he's got a really good chance to kind of explode in this matchup.
And like no news would be good news. Like if we don't hear anything, then it might warrant you to have a couple of shares of him. And what was I going to say? One more Giannis thought would be the Bucks are 5th right now in the Eastern Conference standings, trying to keep pace for the top 4 and home court in the first round. And, they're a little shorthanded tonight. There might be some more incentive to, push them to 30 minutes. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, Evan Mobley, I think, is interesting for large field tournaments. We talked about this Cavs game. Listen, they do weird stuff with the minutes. They kind of baby these guys, and rightfully so. It's a way to kind of do injury management without totally sitting people and dodging fines and things like that. So shout out to what Cleveland has going on. I think they're absolutely like title contenders this season. So a huge total there. Mobley gets up for these games. And I think, he's another guy that nobody's playing that is super interested. He's kind of getting squeezed right between Zion and Banchero, who I also really like. Banchero, and feel free to chime in. Sorry, I'm rambling here, but 39% usage rate, 57 fantasy points. I mean, he's just crushing with usage rates well over 30%. We saw him kind of start coming around before the break, and he finally had a super competitive game and put it all together. So I think Banchero
it's one of the reasons you mentioned Wagner checked back in that game and didn't really do much. Well, I mean, Banchero is technically the alpha on this team, number 1 overall pick. He had a bunch of hype going in, a ton of great performances going into his injury that had that long layoff. He's been a little bit rusty, and obviously they've traded off some big games, but now you're getting last couple of games, 46, 47, 57 out of Paolo, a 36 actual, 230 plus in the last 3 out of him, both of them against Atlanta. Memphis, a much better defensive team, and they'll have to deal with the current now leading defensive player of the year candidate with Wemby out and Jaren Jackson Jr. So like those matchups are certainly going to be there for Banchero here tonight, but big pace up spot for Banchero in this matchup. Suggs is out. Do we go back to Cole Anthony? You could. I don't really want to play Cole Anthony when Wagner and Banchero are playing where they're going, though. But you could if you want some just exposure to that game. Again, a huge pace up spot for the Orlando Magic. I really like Bam. Listen, I get it. This is maybe not a matchup that you're in love with in terms of pace and maybe game total, but that Toronto front court, the way the Bam's been playing right now, he's going to have a field day, I think, if it's Mobo and whatnot, kind of the ones going up against him here.
I like that call. Yeah, there's only a few pieces I like in this game. Bam's one of them. And even when Poeltl's been healthy, the Toronto has yielded like a top 5 rate of fantasy points to opposing centers this year pretty sneakily. So Bam, at worst, Bam is typically pretty safe at that tag. And I think it's a great matchup. Good call.
Agreed. If PJ Washington is good to go, and he's good to go in terms of there's no minutes restriction, he's missed a lot of time. But they just say he's ready to play, like we would go right back here. He's obviously, the price is fine. He's had some huge games without Luka Doncic this year. Now there's obviously no Luka, no Anthony Davis still, no Lively, no Gafford. Like they're so hurting that Washington could be an easy double-double candidate tonight at 7,200.
Yeah, totally agree. If he's in, I like him a lot. I know he had one, bummer of a game on the game log, but great spot, great game environment, and they're going to need him. That front court, remember, guys, is totally depleted. No Derek Lively. AD is out. Dwight Powell's doubtful. He's still there, right? Guess it doesn't really matter. They have nobody, is what we're saying.
Yeah, no, Dwight Powell is not going to probably be in. I don't know if Vince Williams playing. I don't think I'm playing Vince Williams unless people are out tonight. Again, he got 20 minutes of run last night. Hasn't played more than 20 minutes basically all year, so I don't really see a reason to like want to play Vince Williams unless someone from Memphis ends up getting ruled out. I'm even gonna try to see because they got blown out last night. If like even some of those minutes came late in that game, let's see, Vince Williams. Yeah, Vince Williams basically, he got some starter run. He came out, played 4 minutes in the fourth quarter there, and then got subbed out. I don't know. I'm not really in on Vince Williams right now. They play too many guys in that rotation, so they're probably a no-go for me there. Again, we talked Kuzma. Precious, again, I think Precious starts tonight because they're going to go big against Cleveland. Not a great matchup, obviously, but the minutes could certainly be there for him. What do you think in this range? Is it just play Sohan since he got the minutes off the bench last night at 5,500?
I don't love the price on him. I mean, he is probably the most talented of those bigger wings we talk about. But, again, like the price is up and I think he's fine, but I don't know what his ceiling is with all those wings active and, him not starting. If he starts, I think we could have a different conversation. He seems to smash when he starts, right? It's just when he comes off the bench, we start to worry. So.
And again, he was good off the bench. They played Biyombo. Again, I'm not really sure why they started Biyombo and he played 16 minutes. And Sohan got the 28. But if he's going to play 28 minutes, I really don't think 5,500's that bad because I feel like there's a ceiling for him to get more minutes in that spot. So, and we're talking about a smaller slate too. If there were more options, I would probably have maybe a little less interest there. But, if Washington comes back, he kills kind of Najee Marshall there. Asor Thompson's here. Ryan wants to know, do we like Clay or Asor tonight? Clay probably has a higher ceiling of minutes, but Thompson's been the far more productive player lately. What do you think of that combination, Clay or Thompson?
Yeah, I'm assuming we're talking DraftKings. Then it's Thompson for me, but it could be close. If PJ's out, I will say this thing's really close. If Washington plays, I would side with Thompson on DraftKings. Yeah, but I don't hate it. I like this. These are two really bad defensive teams with a high total. So you want to get some really low ownership on someone. You probably get Clay around 10% or less. Is my guess.
And again, if there is no PJ Washington tonight, we saw them go with Kessler Edwards, 40 and 33 minutes the last two games. He'd be getting some big minutes tonight against the Pelicans. The Sandy Aldama play didn't not work last night. He had 28 fantasy points. He just missed his shots. 4-14, 2 of 10. Memphis was getting blown out for a lot of that game. And then Jaren Jackson Jr. kind of brought him back a little bit, but 25 minutes, 10 and 7, 3, 1 and 1, 28 fantasy points. That's more than enough at 4,500. I understand this is a much slower pace and slower game total, but I still like Santi Aldama at $4,500.
The price and the minutes and the type of player he is, I mean, he's going to get his shots up when he's in there. You got to take the matchup less into consideration. It's not like you're paying $8K for the guy, so you absolutely hit it on the head. I don't know if I'm playing him in one lineup, but I do like him with a handful of lineups, more for large field tournaments probably. Yep.
I agree. I mentioned Keldon already. Anything else for you down here, power forward?
Let's see. Nothing really sticking out to me at the moment, but I'll circle back if anything.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Center. We mentioned Towns, again, having a really bad game. He still shot 14 of 30. He started 1 for 12, so he picked it up big time, finished with 62 fantasy points. This is certainly a tougher matchup, going up against Jared Allen, going up against Evan Mobley, $9,800. I don't really find myself looking to spend up for Giannis at center or Towns rather at center here tonight. I think the mid tier is kind of where I wanted to go. I really like Duren tonight at 67. Are you looking to spend up at any of these centers?
I don't know if I'll get the cat for my single entry team, but I might. I'm not sure yet. But this is where I definitely want to differentiate my profile for the portfolio. Wrong keyword for the low dollar stuff. I mean, you mentioned two really great plays off the bat, Cat and Duran. And if OG's also out, like this offense is going to even have to more so run through Cat and Brunson as well. So I'm fine with Cat. I do like Duran a lot, but you mentioned Bam. I mean, center is littered with really good plays, and a lot of them are dual position eligible here. So like another really interesting one to me moving down the list, 66 on DK is Jarrett Allen. Again, Cleveland does funny things. They're not really extending him. But, thinking just pretty generally here, you would think they would want his big body in that lineup against Cat, who's going to play 35 plus minutes in this game. And Allen is averaging 1.29 DK points per minute, which is really good. He's just not playing a lot. But even if you give me 30 minutes of Jared Allen at 1.29 per minute, Cat's not a good defender.
I think what is hurting Allen a little bit is obviously some of these games have been blowouts, so they haven't needed to extend him. Yep. Mobley's ability to sort of transition, obviously, and play the five. They have Hunter. They have Strus. They have obviously playing a lot. Sam Merrill playing really well. So they kind of have their wings out. They have a Coro back. So like they're almost less reliant on needing Allen to play the huge minutes because Mobley can shift to play the five and they can play a smaller lineup. So if the Knicks tonight decide not to go like double big and spread them out, like they may not do Allen Mobley as much on the floor together. They may go Mobley, who's the more versatile offensive player, and stretch them out with like a Coro, Hunter, Strus in the guards and that kind of wing play. So I mean,
possible. If OG's out, they might not have a choice.
25 minutes against Brooklyn, he had 20 rebounds and 16 points. It's not like Jared Allen can't be a monster. And again, I think more to this has to do with the fact that 110-97, 138, 31, 108, 128, 107. They're just blowing these teams out that they're not needing to extend them as much. So
free Jared Allen, baby. Let's let tonight be the night. I mean, I just think he's a nice pivot off Durant. I like them both a lot. I like that whole range. I mean, Washington is center eligible on DK as well. There's just so many good options here. Yeah. And we didn't even get to two of my more favorite GPP players.
I know we mentioned, we'll get to Sarr in a second. I still like Brolo here. I understand Giannis being back obviously clogs up that front court a little bit, but no Bobby Portis to kind of back him up. Now there's no Lillard. Centers have just destroyed Washington all season long. So I think Brook Lopez at $5,900 could pay off the price pretty easily here. But you have the other side of that matchup in Alexander Sarr, no Valanciunas now. We'd expect 30 or so minutes, I think, out of Sarr tonight.
Sarr's only played a handful of games this season with 30-plus minutes, and we saw before the break he played 32. So I think that's kind of a foreshadowing of things to come. I like Sarr quite a bit. Brook Lopez, man, you called it. He's one of my favorite large field tournament plays of the night. I'm hesitant to call him a core play because Brook Lopez, but I will make sure I am overweight well enough on Brook Lopez tonight. 22% usage rate yesterday, which, isn't anything to get super excited about, but he does get a 3.7% bump without Dame and Portis on the floor this year. That's over a 200-minute sample size, so it's big. 1.24 DK points per minute without those two on the floor. I mean, Kuzma matters for sure, but, he dealt with Chris Middleton, for most of the year as well. So I get it. It's not like a comfortable click, but you don't have to go too far back on the game log either, because I know this would probably be another comment in the chat or the Discord. Well, he's old. It's a back-to-back. Yeah. End of January, he played 34 minutes in the second leg of a back-to-back. And now you take Bobby Portis out of this thing, that if this game is close, and you mentioned the mouth-watering matchup against the Wizards, like Brook Lopez could do it tonight. He really could.
Lopez definitely can do it tonight. So if there's no PJ Washington, again, you could just take a look at Prosper as a guy that might get some additional minutes. I know they've kind of favored Edwards and Najee Marshall over him lately, but you got to throw him in the conversation. Mobo as well. We could see more Edie tonight if they go like with a go-go lineup. Again, that fits a little bit more of the Edie matchup. What do you think at the value center?
Yeah, I mean, I like Wendell Carter if he starts.
Sure.
You mentioned, having Edie and Jaren Jackson. We'll see. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but Carter, I like Carter, but he's definitely a little scary for
Sure.
sure. Just kind of a low floor at times, but 4,300 is too cheap. This is a guy that's typically priced, mid fives, maybe 6K when he's getting minutes and starting.
Yep, I agree with you there. So let's get a lineup build. You were on the playbook here today. OGN Nobi will be a game time decision. So that's kind of what we
Doesn't help.
assumed. Yeah, that doesn't really help us. That's just the same information we had before. Let's build a large field tournament. Let's go Brook Lopez here.
Let's do it.
Because if Giannis is limited again, and there's no Lillard and there's no Portis, like it could be a Brolo show here against Washington. So let's start off with Brook Lopez. Where do we want to go? What's our next plug? Is it Fox? Do you want to go Cade on the other side? Do we want any of this Cleveland Knicks game because of the high game total? What do you want to do?
So I definitely want Cleveland Knicks game. I just don't know if I want it right now without knowing this news, and I don't know if I want it for like one lineup. But yeah, I do like him for large field tourneys. We're kind of split on the KPJ Rollins thing, but I kind of prefer Kevin Porter. But let's pay up, and I like Fox, but let me go somewhere else. Let's put Palo in there if we can.
Okay, we'll go Banchero here at 83. Okay. 59.66. We will have some value. I'm fine going Kevin Porter Jr. Like I said, I think there's going to be more probably ownership on KPJ just because of the offensive output that he can put on the floor there. So, where's the point guard? Kevin Porter Jr. 4,200. Right. So 63 here.
Yeah, that's tough. And I mean, Palo and Zion is pretty close for me. I'm not sure how to pick one right now.
You probably could play them both if you wanted to. I mean, that gives us 57.75. The shooting guard. Let's see. I mean, I'm fine. I don't know how many Milwaukee guys you want, but like Gary Trent's 45. We would probably pivot down to McBride if he was starting.
Right. That's a big one. And, he did have a little bit of an outlier of a rebounding game, but
yeah. So there's that. We could go Christie at 54. Who we like?
I do like Christie. I mean, a guy that's not going to most likely, again, there's no never in fantasy NBA. Most likely won't kill you at that price. Right. Most likely.
So we did that. Let's go Thompson. I like Thompson at forward. So that's 6,200 guard util. So 6,200 could get us another
Fox. What does that leave you? Hold on.
Yep,
Brain's fried. No, it's not a lot of money, but we're
42. That could be enough. I mean, listen, $4,200. Let's see. I mean, that would probably be Rollins, right? Like,
yeah, man, you're 100 short at Wendell Carter. That kind of stinks.
Well, if we did this? Let's go down to Rollins. That's 48 now.
It's tough to stomach playing Banchero and Carter, but Carter's so cheap if he starts. That's kind of I don't love that.
So this would be 48, and then I mean, you wanted some of that Cleveland game. I mean, Strus is going to play.
Yeah, Strus is going to play. I mean, honestly, just for conversation's sake,
or Santi in tournaments again, or go back to Gary Trent.
Those are all good calls. Also, like if you're picking one of these, spend up power forwards, like if you take. Oh, you have Zion at small forward. That is so weird.
I was going to say, they got with small forward eligibility.
If you take Palo out and play PJ, I mean, you're getting a lot of savings there at 71. Massive upside. I mean, now we're cooking here,
5,900 gets you Sarr, who you like, Beasley, Clay, Paul.
Yeah, I love that Sarr. Plug Sarr in there, and we're talking.
There you go. $300. Rollins, Christie, Williamson, Washington, Lopez, Fox, Thompson, and Sarr. Again, we got to make sure PJ Washington is playing or not. Otherwise, you're going to have to make some pivots, but that's an example lineup for everybody here today. Again, Justin's got his playbook out. He'll update those core plays here in a little bit. We'll have ownership updated usually around 6:30 like we do every night. So be on the lookout for that. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. Grandi and I will be back on Monday. We'll catch you later.